Now, according to some experts, no significant tax rises are expected at this year's budget unveiling, but consumers should still tighten their belts. This will be likely the toughest year yet for South Africans, from rolling blackouts to environmental threats and the rising cost of living. I'm now joined by Liberty consumer economist Zandile Makhoba for more. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. No significant tax rises, but still, that doesn't mean that South Africans should be relaxed. What can we expect?
Certainly not. So I think the biggest thing that we're seeing in this year's budget is that there are a lot of expenditure pressures. We are seeing that there's more pressure in terms of the wage bill will also likely increase and see higher than expected salary increases from that angle. We're also having an energy crisis which requires a lot of investment. A lot of capital investment might be seen there. We're still yet to hear what will happen with regards to the Ministry of Energy. And of course, we're also seeing quite a lot of pressure for ongoing social support. So while the grants themselves don't go up significantly in comparison to inflation, what we have seen over the past couple of years is a growing number of people needing to be on that list of social grant recipients. And that in itself is really creating some ongoing new line items in terms of expenditure, which we are going to have to see how we balance with the tax base that's not really growing much.
And what are some of the difficult realities that South Africans will need to come face with, head on with, especially when it comes to some of the lessons that can be learned from last year in terms of introducing tax relief?
So this year, because we're not expecting much in terms of tax relief, tax levels will be very much the same. What we've seen last year, especially with regards to the fuel levy relief, is that the government itself retracted that very quickly, just in terms of seeing the losses that were possible just in trying to create some relief. And with just the GDP outlook and the expected impact of more load shedding on the economy, there might be more pressure to reserve as much as possible the revenues that we expect from traditional sources. From that end, consumers should plan that into their finances. And with a lower GDP outlook, we might see some pressure around jobs and company profits. So especially for our entrepreneurs out there, it is a very interesting environment. There might be pressure to generate our own energy in terms of remaining in business, but that in itself has an impact just in terms of profitability. So those are the main concerns as we look ahead.
So what does it mean for households now? I mean, households in all aspects, also looking at perhaps borrowing money. We were told that, the period that we've just come out of, COVID-19, was a good time for instance, property to be bought. What does it mean in this frame that we're in now?
With the tax changes themselves shouldn't have too much of a broad impact. It's more the broader macroeconomic environment. So we are still in a very high interest rate environment. We are expecting inflation to decrease over the main part of the year. But generally, the economic situation in South Africa is tight. It might be worsened by things like energy supply and the lack thereof. And therefore, we might see ourselves spending more, which should be cautioned, obviously. But in terms of just creating long-term investment and seeing if one can benefit from the incentives that will be created from energy investment incentives, that we'll look out for in tomorrow's speech, just in terms of how that really translates, because it will be a trade-off just in terms of consumers having to spend quite a bit of capital to have those solar panels installed, compared to what they might gain in terms of tax relief or support on the other side.
So in the midst of these tough times ahead, how does one now budget for the household?
I think main concerns is really around keeping essentials sorted as much as possible. So going back to the list, making sure that our groceries and energy, housing is well covered. Some of the best things is possibly looking at luxuries and ways we can cut out those luxuries in our expenditure baskets. And then also just trying to take advantage of some of the benefits that we do get from rewards programs and that kind of thing, where you really start to see ongoing use of such facilities from service providers.
Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time and sharing with us that Inside Liberty consumer economist, Zandile Makhoba, giving us some of the expectations ahead of the budget tomorrow.